Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Friday. Thank God, the 22nd of November. Morning, Dom. It's me, Ryan Paisley, and I'm waiting for Mr. Brown, who morning Brown, who's been on Bloomberg this morning as opposed to Babe Station. We'll wait for him. He might be getting out of his hair and makeup. I don't know. Whatever he does. I can't even do the legals because he doesn't even believe me when I do them. One sec. Invite co-host. There we go. Come on down, Mr. Brown. Morning, Tom. Morning, Brown. Morning, Dominic. Morning, Junior. Morning, Darren. Morning, Zach.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. How? Yeah, I'm blessed to have you on the show, mate. Now you've kind of moving up in the world, Bloomberg and all that jazz.
Well, I'm now moving back down in the world, aren't I? Coming on here.
Steady, steady, steady. Remember your
Um,
roots. Remember your
c-
roots.
can you hear me all right? I've had some technical issues this morning. Namely, my headphones don't appear to be
Pardon?
charged. Oh, don't
Pardon?
fuck around.
Sorry. All right, let me get
Oh
the legals
dear.
done. Nothing discussed on this space session constitutes trade or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by POQ Global Limited, traders POQ or POQC, or indeed the affiliates and the hosts, which, as you know by now, is Mr. Michael Brown and myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley. And do you know what? We haven't said it in a while, but we'll say it again. If you do ever take any advice off a podcast or anything like this, you need to give your head a serious wobble. Just don't do it. You know, it's just ridiculous. Do your own research and all that jizz. Um, anyway, it's Friday, mate. It's Friday. We've made it. Beers later. Well, I am. I did invite you, but you turned me down.
Well, yeah, I'm heading back down to Royal Tunbridge Wells momentarily. I've just sort of parked in
Oh.
the office temporarily. Before we
Ask you.
start,
Yeah, go on.
a very happy birthday to Mr. Zach Eisman. And
Ah.
to you, actually, for yesterday,
Well,
which I
yeah, I
totally
was
forgot
wondering where that was
about.
going. You absolute bastard. Mine was yesterday, but yeah, thanks for that, twat.
Sorry, mate. We weren't here
Yeah.
yesterday. I was having my surgery.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. How are the new tits?
Oh, God.
Oh God. Right, moving on. What's happened?
Well,
What's
the thing
happened?
is, you say that. I am actually wearing makeup, so.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, if anyone knows how to get makeup off, please let me know. Anyway, moving on. In terms of yesterday, it was ultimately a positive day in terms of risk sentiment. The S&P 500 gaining about 0.5%. It was a little bit choppy elsewhere. Some relatively broad-based dollar firmness coming through with the greenback rallying to fresh highs since October of last year, so 13-month highs in the dollar index, trading north of the 107 figure, with other G10s trading broadly softer. Cable down about 0.5% and below 126. The euro down about 2/3 of 1% and trading below 105. This relentless dollar demand that we've been seeing over the last kind of week or so, really just continuing into trade yesterday. Catalysts yesterday were, well, I mean, there was a lot of news, but I think most of it was noise rather than signal, to be completely honest with you. That said, we did have a decent initial jobless claims print out of the United States. Initial claims rising by 213,000 in the week to the 16th of November. And of course, that week coincides with the November non-farm payrolls survey, although it is also worth noting that continuing claims moved in completely the other direction, rising to 1.91 million from a prior 1.87 million in the week to the 9th of November. So perhaps a little bit of mixed news on the US labour market. We did have a plethora of central bank speakers, none of whom.
Look, fuck, it doesn't turn on Bloomberg. All of a sudden, all the big words are coming out. Come on, remember who you're talking to. Dumb
Yeah,
it down.
one syllable at most, I suppose, with you,
Yeah,
isn't it?
crayons only, please.
Most of the central bank speakers that we heard from yesterday really just sticking to the script, to be completely honest with you. The Fed remaining in a data-dependent stance and continuing to stress that they will not be able to react to any of President Trump's proposed policies until they are indeed enacted. The ECB still guiding strongly towards a 25 basis point cut in December and guiding away from the idea of a 50 basis point move. Although we did have an interesting comment from the BOE external MPC member Catherine Mann, said yesterday, and I quote here, "I will make a large change in rates when it is justified by the evidence." So Catherine Mann's strategy on the MPC seems to be to do absolutely nothing, and then when inflation gets considerably below 2%, vote for I don't know, a couple of hundred basis points worth of cuts in one meeting, which is an interesting way to make policy. I can't imagine it's going to become a trend in how to make policy, but
Hey,
she
look,
seems
it's
to
all
be.
about rocking the boat, changing the dynamic.
Well, indeed, she seems to be making a name for herself one way or another, which I suppose good for her. In terms,
Well, says the boy being doing the Bloomberg stints this morning and wearing
well,
makeup.
yeah, stop
Yeah,
going on
glass
about the
houses,
fucking
glass
makeup. I didn't
houses.
ask for that; it just arrived.
Yeah, all right.
In terms of other bits and bobs, yesterday, a few things from the political sphere in the United States. Matt Gaetz, he has withdrawn from the running to become Attorney General. Of course, he had been nominated by President Trump. There were a scandal surrounding him. You can go and Google that. I don't think we should go into that here. There was a little bit of a scandal surrounding him. So he has withdrawn. So, as I quote here, not to be a distraction to the Trump administration. That is code for he wasn't going to get confirmed by the Senate. A lady called Pam Bondi, who used to be Attorney General in Florida and Trump's lawyer in one of his impeachment trials, she has been nominated in the place of Matt
Can I
Gaetz.
interject? Can I interject?
Yes.
Thank you. So we spoke. Me and Helen Thomas, Blonde Money, spoke about this on our weekly political show yesterday, and she was saying that basically, if you're from Florida and you're one of Trump's friends, you're basically in with good jobs, and yeah, and then right after this happened, so that was quite entertaining. And I got to say, fair play to Pam for 59 years old. She looks blinding.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Well,
The interesting thing.
game respects game. You know, I look young for my age, so does she. I think you got to respect that.
Yeah, but she doesn't
We're
look
not all like
15.
you. We're not all like you. We look about 82.
What, need
Well,
makeup to
not with
look
your makeup
26?
on.
Yeah, exactly. What was I going to fucking say? Yeah, sorry, going
I
back
don't
to
know.
what your point. Pam Bondi, she was in 2016 the only elected official in Florida to back Trump over Marco Rubio back in
Ooh.
the 2016 campaign. So, yes, it does speak to Helen's excellent point on loyalty. Also, in the United States, the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, he said he's going to step down in January. Not a particular surprise, given that he was probably going to get sacked anyway. Trump is expected to replace Gensler with someone a little bit more friendly to crypto. We also had some news from Apple yesterday. If Tom Talks Cars is on the call this morning,
It's
Apple.
Friday. No chance.
Oh yeah, he's hung over somewhere. In a gutter. Apple apparently Apple apparently want to launch a revamp of Siri. This is going to come in 2026, and apparently they want to include various bits and bobs of their own AI engine. I don't know about anyone else, but Siri is almost utterly useless at this moment in time, so it can't get any worse. And last but by no means least, Northvolt, who are obviously the battery company who have never actually made any batteries. They've
Don't. I can see this pun coming fucking miles off. Go on.
They
Go on.
filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States.
Yeah, you're gonna make a run out of charge pun. We all know it. We can see it a mile off.
No,
You liar.
I was just
You were
going to.
gonna
I
make
was
a.
just going to ask whether any investors are going to come in and give the stock a bit of juice.
Oh, there it is. You absolute swine.
I'd hate to disappoint, mate. That's all
No,
from
that's
me.
true. Oh, thank you for that. Finishing on a pun. Well, finishing part one on a pun. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Right. So some macro headlines from the birthday boy himself, Mr. Zach Eisman. Starting off in the states, Republican Governor Texas Greg Abbott ordered state agencies to cease investing state funds in China and sell at first available opportunity, citing financial and security risks. Sell-off in Chinese stock deepened on Friday afternoon, obviously Chinese time, as disappointing tech earnings hurt sentiment already weakened by concerns over Donald Trump's imminent return, i.e. tariffs. China said that it's willing to engage in positive dialogue on trade with the US under Donald Trump administration. That's according to senior trade officials cited by the FT. What else we got in Japan? 56% of economists polled by Reuters expect the BOJ to hike rates again in December, and 90% expect rates to be at 0.5% by end of March, according to the Reuters poll, while median forecast for the terminal rate is at 1%. Sticking with Japan briefly, this is one for the what the actual fuck are they doing category. Japan
There's a lot of that
headline.
these days, isn't there?
Oh, mate. So get this. I don't know if you've seen it. Obviously, you've been busy on Bloomberg and getting your makeup done. But Japan are planning to are planning to add or inject 141 billion dollars of stimulus. The reason for this, get this, is to counter rising prices, i.e., inflation. So to combat inflation or
Okay.
counter inflation, they're going to stick 141 billion more dollars into the system. Now, I'm very far from the smartest cookie in the in the biscuit barrel, but what the fuck's going on there? Can someone explain that to me?
That's, I mean, as you say, I haven't actually read the story, but that sounds completely illogical.
Well, yeah, right. I'm glad you said it because I thought it's a Friday and I have gone a week
Like, at
without
first
food.
glance,
So I thought maybe I might be
you know, literally
maybe.
just listening to what you've just said, I'm kind of sat here scratching my head going, what the hell are they on about?
Well, yeah, I read the article 3 or 4 times. I will post it up into this in a second when I get a chance. Actually, I've just retweeted it just now. Um, yeah, odd one. But anyway, Kiwi dollar hits 1 year low. Swap rates fall as markets bet on the super dovish Royal. Sorry, not Royal Bank of New Zealand, is it? It's the RBNZ. I keep saying Royal. It's just I
Reserve.
want to make New Zealand great again. Um, anyway, Goldman Sachs expects Brent prices to average around $80 per barrel this year, despite 2000. Sorry, I guess this year means 2025, despite a 2024 deficit and geopolitical uncertainty, citing an anticipated zero point 0.4 million barrel per day surplus next year. Gold is headed for its biggest weekly gain since October last year, as an escalation in the Russian-Ukraine conflict boosted its haven appeal, while traders are also assessing prospects for further easing by the Federal Reserve. In the Middle East, Iran said it will increase the number of centrifuges in its nuclear program in response to a censor by the United Nations nuclear watchdog, ratcheting up tensions with the West just days after it signaled a willingness to ease them. This is just a story that will not disappear. It's getting, well, it's older than Michael Brown, I think.
Does
Finally,
that
it
story
kind of
wear
ties in with
makeup as
Mike.
well? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't be bothered anymore with this. I just want to get to the pub. I'm not going to lie. It's been a week since I've had a beer. Anyway, so this kind of ties in with what Mr. Michael Brown was saying earlier about Siri and all of that malarkey. ChatGPT creator OpenAI has recently considered developing a web browser that would combine its chatbot and has separately discussed or struck deals to power such features. Obviously, this would be a big. I think they're billing it as kind of a Google Chrome killer. But yeah, that remains to be seen. Yeah, and that's me lot.
Cool.
Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, mate. Right, in terms of
You're
today, then, well,
welcome.
we've already had some retail sales data out of the UK this morning, and rather grim retail sales data it
Awful.
was too. Headline sales falling by 0.7% on a month-on-month basis in October. That's well over double the 0.3% decline that had been expected. When you take fuel out of the data, it's even worse, with sales having fallen by 0.9% compared to the 0.4% decline that consensus had foreseen. And as if that wasn't bad enough, also the prior prints for both of those metrics were at 0.3%, and they both got revised lower to 0.1%. So clearly, the UK consumer tightening their belts. Some are saying that this may be a little bit of spending reluctance ahead of what is a big discounting season with Black Friday and then into the sort of Christmas and festive period. Some would also argue that this is budget related, given that it's October data and people tightening their belts ahead of the budget. Let's be honest, whatever way you cut the data, it's pretty grim, and it doesn't look like things are getting much rosier here in the UK anytime soon. On which note, we have some PMI figures due this morning. Well, we have PMIs from pretty much everywhere out today. The Eurozone data due at the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. All three of the gauges, manufacturing, services, and the composite index, expected unchanged from where they were in October. So that would leave manufacturing at 46, services at 51.6, and the composite gauge at bang on 50. Although I would say that we've had some pretty dismal French and German figures out as we've been speaking. So risks to those consensus figures are tilted to the downside. At 9:30, we get the similar flash PMI figures from here in the UK. Of course, both of these data points referencing November. The manufacturing index, that's expected at 50 from a prior 49.9. Services, that's expected to remain unchanged at 52. So that's a relatively solid pace of expansion continuing in the services sector. And the composite gauge, that's also expected, as near as makes no difference, unchanged at 51.7 for a prior 51.8. Through to the US session this afternoon, we have some retail sales figures due from Canada. This data is very old because it references September, but sales nonetheless expected to have increased by 0.4% on a monthly basis. And at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we have the final read on consumer sentiment from the University of Michigan, which is expected at 73.9, up from a preliminary read of 73 exactly. The central bank speaking calendar is a little bit quieter today. We hear from the Fed's Bowman at some point this afternoon, although she is talking on AI, so I don't think we're going to get much in terms of the policy outlook there. We've also got several ECB speakers on the docket today, including President Lagarde and exec board members de Guindos and Schnabel. Although I think Lagarde has actually been speaking while we have been, and I don't think she said anything of particular interest. Last but by no means least, the earnings docket is absolutely dead. I think we're pretty much done and dusted with earnings season now that Nvidia is out of the way. Of course, they reported after the close on Wednesday. And the standard reminder for a Friday that there is the potential for gapping risk over the weekend as markets continue to monitor the geopolitical situation in the Middle East and in Ukraine, and also continue to pay attention to the personnel picks that Trump is making for his first cabinet as we approach Inauguration Day in January. And that is pretty much a lot from me this morning and this week.
Couple of bits whilst you've been talking. East markets are now pricing in a 35% chance of a 50 basis point cut in December, and that was at
ECB,
20% before. ECB, yeah, sorry. That was less than 20% before the PMI data started rolling out this morning. And also because it's German, bad news. And I love
we
it,
have to
German
mention
bad
it.
news. We have to mention it. It's just hit the wires on the awesome PIQ terminal. That German industrial body expects a 3% drop in production this year. Wah, wah, wah.
Well, to be honest,
anyway,
my reaction to that would be only 3%. I mean, that's actually in the context of the German economy, that's sort of marginally good news.
In September, did you know car manufacturing in Germany recorded a 6.9% drop in production year on year? There you go. And mechanical engineering was down 8.5%. There you go.
Yeah, you're getting into the weeds
anyway,
now, right?
Yeah, I know, but any bad news of Germany is good news for me. Anyway. Anyway, hello to our German listeners.
Well, we haven't got any anymore. They've all fucked off.
Well, exactly. Mr. Brown, thank you as always. I do hope you get the makeup off later on at some point. Well, unless you're going out, might want to keep it on. But listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. It's Friday, so remember to factor in the fuckery. And we will see you on Monday.
We will indeed.
Laters.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Do, 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 do.